What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my comparison of the Samsung Galaxy A03 versus the Samsung Galaxy A03s. So let's get started. Now, while these two devices do feature quite a bit in common, they also have quite a few differences, and I'm looking forward to covering all of that in this video. Now, the first similarity between these two phones is the display size. Now, these two phones both feature 6.5-inch displays, which is great for content consumption, especially because you have such a large canvas here on the phones. Now with the Galaxy A03, we have a PLS IPS LCD display. Same thing here with the A03s. Both devices also feature 720p displays. They both have a PPI of 270. They both have a 20:9 aspect ratio, and they both have 81.8% screen-to-body ratios. So essentially, when looking at these two phones from the front panels here, they appear to be almost identical. They both have water drop notches up top, and then down below they both have thicker bottom bezels. Now the front cameras on both of these devices are both 5 megapixels, so that's yet another similarity between these two phones. Now both the A03 and A03s are offered in two different storage configurations. You can get these phones in either 32 or 64 gigabytes of storage, and both devices do support microSD card expansion. So if you do happen to fill up all of that storage, then you can always add in a microSD card to offload photos and videos, for example. Now in the US, if you get the A03s on a carrier, they don't offer it in 64 gigs, so keep that in mind. You can only get the phone in 32 gigs. And then the A03 isn't offered on any US carriers at all. So I know as far as the name goes, the A03s has an S in the name, and that's the only difference, but this phone is the only phone of the two that's actually offered officially in the US. Now there is no wireless charging with either of these two phones. However, both devices do feature face unlock, but the A03s is the only phone of the two that has a fingerprint sensor. And the fingerprint sensor is located on the power button, which I do feel like is very convenient. But let's give face unlock a try with the A03. So it is very fast and responsive, as you can see there. It pretty much instantly recognizes me, which is great. And then we'll give the fingerprint sensor a try on the A03s. So very fast and responsive there. Let's try that out one more time. It's nice and responsive. So it certainly is really good to have a fingerprint sensor with the A03s, and I certainly wish that we did have that here with the A03. Thankfully though, at least with both of these devices, face unlock is fast and responsive, but I definitely prefer to use the fingerprint sensor over face unlock, as I just feel like it makes more sense in general. Now taking a look at the cameras on the back of these devices, there are some pretty major differences. So the first difference is that, as you can see, with the A03, we have a dual camera setup compared to a triple camera setup with the A03s. Now with the A03, we have a 48 megapixel main camera and then a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. And then with the A03s, we have a 13 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera to assist with close-up images, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So both of these devices do feature portrait mode for both the back and rear cameras, but out of these two phones, the A03s is the only one that actually has a macro camera. So here's how things look on the camera apps on both devices. This is the main camera right now. So then from here, on both phones, we can switch over to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. Then with the A03s, we can head over to the macro camera, which is in the More section. So we can access that right there, and then we can get close up and have the photos be nice and crisp and clear, which certainly is a nice feature to have. And then we can also flip around to the front-facing cameras on these devices, and you can take portrait selfies if you want, or you can take a standard selfie as well. And then another nice thing too is that on both of these phones, we do have the option to take a group selfie, so it does crop things out a little bit, which I do feel like is a practical feature, especially if you do want to fit multiple people in a front-facing photo. And then video recording with these two devices maxes out at 1080p with both the rear and front cameras. So as far as RAM and processor go, these two phones are offered in both 3 and 4 gigabyte configurations of RAM. However, if you do get the Galaxy A03s through a US carrier, then you are only getting 3 gigabytes of RAM. They don't offer the 4 gigabyte of RAM model. Now the processors with these two devices are also different. With the Galaxy A03, we have the Unisoc UMS 9230 processor, And then with the Samsung Galaxy A03s, we have the MediaTek Helio P35. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 5 on both of these phones, and I'll show you the scores from those tests right now. But essentially, with the A03, I did get a better score of 304 compared to a single core score of 174 with the A03s. And then multi-core scores are also higher on the A03 compared to the A03s as well. So while the A03 certainly doesn't have quite as many features as the A03s, it does make up by being a bit more powerful. Now battery capacity with these two devices is the same at 5,000 milliamp hours. So that's certainly a very large battery, giving you very good battery life with really either of the two phones. So nice job Samsung with that by giving us a really large battery on both of these devices. Now neither of these two phones have NFC, so if you do like to make mobile contactless payments via tap and pay, you can't do that here with either of these two devices, unfortunately. And another major difference between these two phones is what you would use to charge them. So with the Galaxy A03, we have micro USB, whereas with the Galaxy A03s, we have USB-C. Now for me at least, I'm a big fan of using USB-C. Micro USB is certainly something of the past, and I really can't believe that a phone would even launch in 2022 with micro USB, but I suppose since the A03 is such a entry-level device from Samsung, they had to cut corners somewhere. But at least with the A03s, I know that I can use any of my USB-C cables to charge it, whereas with the A03, it's really one of the few remaining devices that I have that actually even uses micro USB. Now taking a closer look at the hardware of these devices, as far as things go, looking at the front panels here, they're essentially identical. One thing I will say though is that considering that these both are low-end phones from Samsung, I am really happy with the display quality. I like that things are decently crisp and clear here, especially for phones that have 720p displays. I feel like these do look good in general. They're definitely going to be adequate if you want to watch video content, for example, as things are also going to look really good on these large displays considering they are 6.5 inches on both phones. But the materials of the phones are pretty similar. They are both made out of plastic. Neither of these two phones feel cheap, which is another nice thing about them, even though they are very low end. So I know sometimes with very low end phones, they almost feel like they're falling apart, even after you first take them out of the box. But that's really not the case with either of these two phones. They certainly both have decent durability. Now taking a look at the left side of both devices, they both have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card, and that's pretty much it. Then on the right side, they both have volume up and volume down. And then let me flip these around, but with the A03, we have just the standard power button, and then with the A03s, the power button is also the fingerprint sensor, which again, I'm a really big fan of. And then taking a look at the top of both phones, they both have noise canceling microphones. And then on the bottom of the two devices, we have the 3.5mm headphone jacks, microphones. We have micro USB, once again, with the A03, whereas we have USB-C with the A03s, and then we have the speakers on both phones. Then, on the back of the two devices, we have pretty different camera modules as far as the designs go, but it is a dual camera setup with the A03 compared to a triple camera setup with the A03s. And then, while these phones both are similar in color, they do have different textures on the back. I personally prefer how the A03 looks. I really like this design to it. But at the same time, I also like the wavy look of the A03s. So in conclusion, even though the Samsung Galaxy A03 is a bit more powerful than the Samsung Galaxy A03s, I do prefer the A03s. The biggest reason why is because of the fingerprint sensor. I can't imagine having a phone without a fingerprint sensor. I know, of course, the iPhones don't have a fingerprint sensor, but at least the face unlock on those devices is a bit more fast and accurate. I am at least grateful that the A03 has face unlock, but I really do wish this phone did have a fingerprint sensor. And then, of course, another deal breaker for me is having micro USB on a smartphone. The A03s certainly does prove that even though it is a lower end phone, we can get USB-C, as you can see right there. So between having USB-C and a fingerprint sensor, those two things certainly make the A03s a better choice, in my opinion, compared to the A03, because again, really the only advantage with this device is that it is a bit more powerful. But I hope you enjoyed this comparison of the Samsung Galaxy A03 versus the Samsung Galaxy A03s. If you want to learn more about these devices, including availability and pricing, then definitely take a look at the links in the video description. But if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, sub to the channel. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.